Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition to the F to the L to the double OG. That's right, it's the Fantasy League of Ordinary Gentlemen. Welcome
Yo,
back.
the
What's happening?
flu.
Yeah.
Yo.
Once again, it's me and Ty tonight. So, Ty, what's happening, man?
No, man, good. Life is good. Excited to be back on here as always. Big weekend for college football, big weekend for NFL. We got Major League Baseball playoffs. Like it's a good
Mhm.
time for sports. And yeah, man. I mean, it's a good time for sports and good time to do a podcast.
Well, I know the biggest game of the week, not so much the Bills and the Chiefs, but maybe I had to put it that way. But maybe even Sunday night too. You got a banger of the Eagles and the Cowboys. But yeah, what you gonna be doing for the game for the Bills and Chiefs? Anything interesting? No, not going to the game or nothing.
No, no, I probably won't be going to many games this year. It's tickets are expensive. The only one I might be going to is the Bills Bengals, which is like the day after New Year's because tickets are only, and I say only, they're only $125. For those that don't know, Bills tickets are going for like 200 plus, and that's for like the Browns.
Yeah,
So yeah, so tickets are ridiculous for the Buffalo Bills. Um, but going back, hey, no, I agree. I mean, the Eagles Cowboys game, it's a division game. The Eagles, if they can win, and then the Giants lose too, the Eagles got a 2 game lead on the division, and that's pretty big considering how the Cowboys and the Giants are both playing. I mean, Cowboys are a little more impressive. They beat the Giants, but the Giants are winning those close games that, for instance, my team had a lot of trouble with. So you got to win those close games. Um, and then again for the Cowboys, if they can beat the Eagles, they've beaten all 3 teams in the division, and theoretically are in first place. So it's probably the biggest game of the week. I would say Buffalo and Kansas City is probably a close second, but I would go Philadelphia Dallas is the biggest one.
yeah. Like, it's interesting, man. They're doing. They got. I mean, they're doing great with Cooper Rush at the helm right now. I know Dak is still out because of that thumb injury. I think he's going to be out at least one more game. But it's interesting. Cooper Rush has been handling his own the whole time. I think he's only lost one game. Is that right?
No, he hasn't lost any.
Oh shit, that's right.
Yeah,
I think
they
they
Dak
lost. They lost game one, right?
they lost game one, but Dak played that game.
That's right. Yeah, and then all throughout, yeah, Cooper Rush has been pretty much been handling. That's
Because
awesome.
if you remember last year, Cooper Rush started against the Vikings, and they beat the Vikings in Minnesota. In fact, I think he led them on a game-winning touchdown drive. So
Hmm.
Cooper Rush is a baller. Cooper Rush can play a little bit. Make no mistake about it.
I mean,
Last
he.
game was last game wasn't great, 101 yards, but I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't turn the ball over. I don't think he's turned the ball over yet this year. So
Mhm.
he's getting the job done, and that's all they need. They need someone that doesn't turn the ball over, just like any team. And yeah, so make a couple throws here and
Yeah,
hand off to Zeke and Pollard.
yeah, undefeated so far as a starter for the Cowboys. So that's a hell of a pedigree right there for him. That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like so we could find you at 757 Bills Mafia. You can find me at Gars underscore Poetica. Obviously you can check us out at the Flug underscore FF and also the flug.com. But yeah, so what we're here for today, me and Ty came up with something. We're gonna dish out 10 players to each one of us. So we're gonna do something and see if we value this player as a start, a flex, or someone we want to sit, maybe even drop, depending on these players too. Like when we, if we're going to suggest them as a starter, maybe if they're going to be an RB1, RB2, wide receiver one, two, or three, something like that. See what kind of value we actually feel like these guys are, what their potential is, or if they're pretty much, on the cusp of like having a downfall or a downtrend for the rest of the year. But
Yeah.
yeah, you want to get to it, man?
Yeah, sure. So
Uh-huh.
I'll ask you. I came up. So for those that don't know, Gary and I both came up with 10 players, two quarterbacks, three running backs, three wide receivers, and two tight ends.
Mhm.
Uh, I'll start with the two quarterbacks. My two quarterbacks. I came up with Shane's boy, Jared Goff, aka Matt Stafford's replacement, um, and a guy that was called out by his own coach, one Ron Rivera, and that was Carson Wentz. So, um, I guess what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, so Jared Goff doesn't play this weekend. Next week, you got to remember, next week he plays the Cowboys. They've
Mhm.
only given up 72 points in 5 games, but Carson Wentz does play. He plays this week against the Bears tomorrow. I guess what are your thoughts? And I guess what are your thoughts next week with Goff? Would you start him, sit him, or drop him next week? And as far as Carson Wentz, would you start, sit him, or drop him today or tomorrow rather?
Right. Like for the first, I mean, right now, golf is a top seven QB. So at that way, I know his last game was he put up pretty much a dud against New England. Uh, that is something I usually would steer away from, but I do know when they're at home is when he's usually on fire. So I mean, that's probably like the time to start him is when he's at home.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he played Seattle, 37 points. Washington, uh, 34 points. Philadelphia, when they played Detroit and at home, uh, put up like close to 15 points, which is not bad. But I mean, you see like the likes of somebody like Aaron Rodgers who's taking a fall. Kyler Murray isn't what he's used to be. I mean, obviously he's going to have to get DeAndre Hopkins back at some point too. But you see a lot of these guys like or QBs, even Trevor Lawrence. I mean, top 15. Jacoby Brissett kind of outplays a few of like the veterans that we love. So right
Right.
now, I still value. I'd say I'd like to put golf still as a top 15 rest of the way. I mean, I love the fact that he's, slinging the ball um, there out. I would probably put him as top 15. I can't say completely like a QB1, but if he's like in a super flex, I totally value the fact that he's my QB2.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you?
I yeah, I'm with you. I don't know the rest of the schedule, but I know next week, especially if they're playing Dallas, it's at Dallas, which leads to what you just said. Excuse me. I would want him as my superflex quarterback, but playing Dallas against that pass rush and even that back end with Trayvon Diggs can get a pick as we know at any time. Um, I would rather have him as my superflex quarterback. Um, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, 11 touchdowns, four INTs, 1,355 yards. And I think the touchdowns is fourth in the league, but he's also got a 59.7% completion percentage. You could make the argument that he hasn't had all of his weapons with DeAndre out for the past couple games. I think DJ Chark was out. Hawkinson was out for a game. Or if I'm not, no, I can't remember now. But Rob St. Brown was definitely out for a game. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. Even though he's seventh, I would rather him be my super flex quarterback, especially next week playing at Dallas.
Two, I mean, you got to think Jameson Williams at some point is going to come back too. So I mean, that's definitely a huge added weapon for him as well. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think a golf like he's surprised me. I mean, we also had pretty decent expectations for these Detroit Lions. I think Shane's gonna be loving us, man. We've been talking about Lions the past couple of weeks, but yeah, I still kind of value him as that top 15. So I'm totally on board with that. Carson
Mhm.
Wentz, now I know you brought him up.
Yeah.
He's he puts up numbers, but the only
Yep.
problem is he cannot finish the game. Like last week when he threw that interception to where they
Yep.
lost against the Titans too. I mean, they're
Yep.
going against Chicago now in Chicago. Uh, I mean,
And what-
obviously, like, I mean, that's could be a possibly their second win of the season. Going in, Chicago is just like one of those teams that are totally up and down. They can't get a passing game of their own. So I mean, there's a good opportunity for Wentz and company to at least be somewhat standard in this game. So I
Well,
mean,
can I interrupt? I was just gonna say they are playing great defense, though.
mhm.
That's basically why they've won their two games. They gave up only 20 points to the Giants and they lost, and they gave up 20 points to the Texans. They actually won. That was actually one of the Bears' best games, but they only gave up 10 points to the 49ers. They're actually playing some pretty good defense, and that's why they've been 2-3. So that's the only. I know I interrupted, but I was going to say I agree Washington could win, but let's not forget. I mean, this Bears defense, a renewed defense with Jaquan Brisker and Roquan Smith is still there, and Eddie Jackson. Yeah, I just want to get that in real quick.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean,
That's
honestly,
the end of the other team.
yeah. Too. I mean, Wentz is still like a top nine in PPR. That's one
Mhm.
thing. I mean, I know Fields in general. Like, I mean, I he's definitely thrown the least amount of passes in the whole league. So, like you said, their defense is what's carrying them. But I do see Wentz. I still value him as. I almost want to say it again, like a top 15, like just outside of a QB1.
Yeah.
I obviously like him as a super flex as well, but
Yep.
I know with the troubles with Ron Rivera, is he going to play a whole season? I mean, are we going to see the likes of Taylor Heineke, who that was subpar last season? But I mean, right now, I would just be on the lookout of having some kind of, somewhat significant QB going forward, and Wentz as a backup when it comes to any kind of redraft league.
Yeah.
But Superflex, yeah, I'm fine with him being like my QB2.
Yeah. No, no, I agree with you. Once again, I agree with you. I think, yeah, if he's your super flex guy, great. If he's your starting quarterback, like Ron Rivera said, they asked him about the up and downs of Carson Wentz. He said, I'll use some what do you say, anti acids or antivirus pills,
Yeah.
something like that. So
Well,
again, I mean,
I'm sorry, I was going to put this in too, because too, like even when he was with Indianapolis, Carson Wentz was like top nine in offense or something like that. I mean, you see
right,
Matt Ryan there. I mean, obviously Matt Ryan's a stand-up guy, locker room guy, but he's just not getting it done. Like in general, Indianapolis is taking a downfall, man.
yeah,
Surprising.
ab-
I was hoping I was getting like a little bit better expectations, like well above average for that whole squad, but they've taken
mhm,
a step backwards. And Wentz, he was on fire the first few games of the season. Puts up
yeah,
well over 30 points per game, fantasy wise.
yep,
Just took that downfall against Philly and Dallas. They're two um, division rivals. But since he went back and played Tennessee, little over 20 points, 22 fantasy points. So I like the fact that he's a good QB2, but who's to say if this team, they're 1-4 right now, they could definitely look at Taylor Heineke at any point during the season.
I think that brings another point. You made another point. He had a good game against Tennessee, but let's be honest, Tennessee's been giving up a lot of passing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they Here's a Buffalo plug again.
Bring it.
They they got torched by Stephon Diggs for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. Um, they got torched by Mac Hollins of the Raiders. Like, I forget what it was. It was like 170 or something. I mean, it was something just absolutely ridiculous. So I was not shocked that Carson Wentz had a good game last week because he was playing such a horrendous. They got Kevin Byard at safety, and he's a great player. He's an all-pro safety, but beyond that, that's basically their secondary. So I wasn't shocked that Carson Wentz threw for, I think it was like 359 yards. Um, but when he seems to play, you made a great point. When he seems to play these defenses like Philly, in Dallas, it seems to struggle. But against like Detroit, he came back and look what kind of game he had then. And then look what the kind of game Jacksonville's been very up and down with their defense. But yeah, it seems to me that when he plays like an elite defense, like the Cowboys, and I'll say the Eagles are playing pretty good defense right now too. He seems to struggle. So, and again, the Bears, their identity is their defense right now, and it's been their identity for a long time, especially with their pass rushers.
Mhm.
So I just think yeah, if you have him as a super flex this week, great. If he's your starting quarterback, ooh, good luck.
Yeah, you're in trouble. But
Yeah,
Wentz too, like his weapons are pretty damn good. Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, even
yeah,
with scary Terry McLaurin, like just the whole this team is not that bad. I
no,
mean, you did hear about, like you said, with Ron Rivera, like they're just a quarterback away in a way. It's just they've had different QBs all throughout
yeah,
the past 2 or 3 years since Rivera's been there.
and their running game has not been good. Now I'm not gonna bash Brian Robinson because he just overcame a gun bullet or two bullets to his knee, I believe it was, and so I still think he needs some time. I think he's been listed as a starting running back, if I'm not mistaken. I do think he needs to be slowly worked back into the fold. But Antonio Gibson has been, I mean, that offensive line, first of all, that offensive line hasn't blocked for Wentz, as evidenced by the Eagles game. What, he got sacked 9 times or something like that?
Hmm.
And then they just haven't been blocking for Gibson. Um, so that also helps fantasy football owners with Wentz is that he's throwing a lot because they're either playing from behind or the offensive line is not blocking, run blocking. They're running. Gibson's not running the ball well, so that also kind of plays into Wentz as well.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I want to give a little shout out to Brian Robinson for making it through already. I mean, it's
Exactly.
only week 5, but after what he went through,
Exactly.
that's amazing, dude. So
Yeah.
glad
Yeah.
to see that he's pretty much fully healthy and like recovered fully,
Abs-
hopefully fully from all that.
abs-
That's awesome.
abs- Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of mean quotes, and I was just like, man, come on, dude. Like
Yeah.
that guy's lucky to be alive. He's very fortunate, and the fact that he's playing the game he loves. I mean, he's won at life, like someone said. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pivot over to my two QBs. Right now, I got Tom Brady and also Derek Carr. So feel the need to whichever one you want to talk about first and how you value them too.
Um, I would say Brady is. I think I saw Brady is 13th in PBR and standard. Um, and to be honest with you, I would say most weeks I would value as a super flex quarterback. Um, that being said, even with some injuries to his wide receiver corps, they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, another Bills pluck. There's gonna be a couple probably. Yeah, we got a Bills player on here, so there's gonna be some plugs for it. Josh Allen only completed 20 passes for 424 yards
That's
against the
nuts.
Pittsburgh. Yes, yes.
That's over
That's
20 yards per pass.
20 yards per pass. And let's just go to the attempts. He had 31. So everybody's big on the yards attempt. He still had 13 yards an attempt. So they got burnt for a 98-yard touchdown pass. They got burnt for a 62-yard touchdown pass. They got burnt for a 25-yard touchdown pass. And then I think a 20-yard touchdown pass.
Hmm.
Um, and it doesn't help that they got injuries to their secondary as well. So, um, like I said, normally I would say super flex for Tom Brady because he's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers without T.J. Watt, and they had no pass rush. Make no mistake about it. They had. I rewatched the game because I missed it. For those that don't know, they had no pass rush. Josh Allen didn't even get hit at all. So for this week, I'm starting Brady as my quarterback. Even with the injuries they got, even with the offensive line, the run blocking, the running game is not so like it's not terrible, but it's not great either. Um, I'm going Brady. I'm starting Brady this week.
Okay, I like it. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to go against him because he's always prepared for each game, like
yeah,
prepared for the worst. And, just the weapons that he typically has. I think if Gronk was here, he'd be right back into that QB1 phase. And obviously, like you said, he's missing like his biggest wide receiver core. I mean, Godwin is back, but is he still, somewhat feeling that injury from last
right.
season with the ACL? And
Right.
also, I mean, Mike Evans is back, but like, I mean, he was suspended for that one game. But two, I mean, Julio Jones. We all know Julio Jones within the past 2 to 3 years, he wasn't really um, a full season of healthy, you know.
Yep.
Uh, but I do like him. It's hard to put him in that QB1 range anymore. But
Mm,
I still think I like your idea. I think he's going to be good for this week. He's still got to face, Baltimore coming up in a couple weeks. The Rams. I mean, although the Rams are kind of taking a back seat from last year as well, and
yeah.
even like New Orleans, he always has a problem against New Orleans.
Yes,
So,
he does. Yes, he
uh,
does.
but yeah, it's further down the line. I mean, when it comes to like the fantasy playoffs, you're looking at San Fran, New Orleans, Cincinnati. Sometimes their defense can be stingy, but
Hmm.
yeah, I do. Kind of like I would say with golf and maybe even Wentz, you want to make sure you could try and find some kind of QB1 uh, to at least keep in the cusp
Yeah.
instead of having him at the helm.
I mean, I say he throws for at least 300, maybe even more this week. Because he's averaging about 280, I think it is. I think I see about 280, 281. So I think he goes over that. Um, I think he goes over 300.
Nice.
Um, and then I guess they'll transition to Derek Carr.
Hmm.
Um, so as far as like who he plays next, for those that don't know, he's on a the Raiders are on a bye this week. Next week they play the Texans. This kind of goes back to how I felt about Carson Wentz. I think he's 12th in standard and PBR, so that's basically just at the QB1. But again, this goes back to I think I like him as a super flex quarterback, but Houston's actually been playing some really good defense. I mean, that's kind of they're kind of like the Bears, and even better. That's kind of their identity. They got some young rookies like Jalen Petre and Derek Stingley, who they're playing some good football. They really
Yep.
are. They've adapted to the NFL, and I was impressed with Jalen Petre coming out of college, and he's been impressive. Stingley's been impressive. I'm trying to think there's somebody else I'm forgetting on that defense that's a rookie that's really good. But look what they did. Look what they did to Trevor Lawrence last week.
Yep.
They scored 6 points against the Texans at home. Trevor Lawrence didn't have any touchdowns. I think he was held to under 300. Might have been. I think it might have been under 250, and no touchdowns, and he had 2 INTs. So, um, but I think for the purpose of the Houston Texans, and even for the season, even though he'll have a healthy Hunter Renfro and eventually a healthy Darren Waller, you saw what happened at the end of the game. Him and Renfro and Adams got mixed up and they ran into each other. So there's still some certain things they need to work out. They've been more impressive running the football. Josh Jacobs has been a stud.
Dude, I love
Uh,
Josh Jacobs.
I freaking when I so I got him in FLOOG. I was kind of like, whatever. I mean, we'll see what happens. He's been a stud, and I love him too. Right now I love him too because I'm undefeated in FLOOG, and so but that's been their identity has been running the football. They've been more impressive running the football. So long story short, long-winded answer. Um, I like Derek Carr as my super flex for their next game and really for their for the season, honestly. Until things until they smooth things over because he's still completing only 61% of his passes and they're 1-4 as a team. So
Well, I kind of want to pivot to Josh Jacobs real quick. Like
mhm.
uh Josh McDaniels, like I know when he was with Pittsburgh, the Patriots, like he
Yep.
basically would have a committee. Like that whole Patriots way was the committee. It's kind of what I
Right.
thought this team was gonna have. I didn't really put
We,
Josh Jacobs in like, this, anywhere. What is he doing? Like 80% snap share, I'm guessing. Yeah.
I mean,
80, pretty much in the past couple of games, he's like at 80% snap share, pretty much.
you
But
can make an
like
argument they're running him like Derrick Henry.
yeah, but like I'm wondering too, they didn't pick up that fifth option. Are they going to run the shit out of him this year, or is that something they're kind of kicking themselves in? Like, maybe we should have picked that up because he's going to want more money by next season.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, he's the saving grace for that team right now. In all honesty, I mean, you see Devontae Adams pretty much nowhere to be found. I mean, he had a pretty decent game last season, but like he's not putting up those stout every week numbers that we kind of remember with Aaron Rodgers too.
yep,
Um, so I kind of like your idea too. I still value the fact that he could still be a QB1 with the weapons
sure.
that he has, as long as they're all healthy, like Darren Waller, Renfro, Adams, Josh Jacobs, like being a monster shit. We've even seen the likes of Matt Collins, who kind of never even made the Eagles roster at times. But yeah, I like that. I kind of would still value him as a QB1 because I feel like they're going to come out swinging after this bye week.
Mm, I respect that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
respect that.
cool. So let's move it on to running backs, dude.
Okay,
Uh, who's one of your running backs you got
so
for me?
I'm I'm gonna come out swinging at least with the three that I have. I'm gonna come out with Najee Harris.
Yes.
Uh, um, I don't know what you think. I've been kind of underwhelmed with how he's performed, and a lot of it does have to do with his offensive line. Um, but I mean, he's I like you said. I know you said like you said yards per carry is not everything, and I agree. But like he was underwhelming last week. He averaged 2.2 yards per carry, and it just seemed like Buffalo was getting to the backfield a couple times. Um, he's averaging 3.2 yards per carry, 69 carries, 222 yards. He does have a touchdown catch and run, but for the most part, I mean, he's been underwhelming in my opinion. He's 31st, and he's played all 5 games. Some of these guys that we have not played all 5 games. He's played all 5 games. He's 31st in standard, and he's 29th in PBR. So that's not even an RB2. Like he's on like flex mode.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what you think about that. Like I'm in like this is how bad it is, dude. I have an 18 team league where I have him, and the only reason like I'm starting him is because DeAndre Swift is on a bye and hurt. Josh Jacobs is on a bye. Um, and I can't remember the other running back, but yeah. Otherwise, if they two were playing, I would have DeAndre Swift and Josh Jacobs playing over Najee Harris, honestly.
Yeah.
So, what you think?
Absolutely.
At, at best, say one more thing. At best, he's my flex.
Mm. Well, the numbers say it all. At best, he should be your flex. I will
Yeah.
still put him as an RB2, and the only reason why is because, I mean, they have Jalen Warren as his backup, but he's not really getting a whole lot of snap percentage except for last week. The thing
Uh,
that's kind of scary is the fact that like he had 307 rushing attempts last season, and right now he only has 69 through
yep.
5 games.
Right.
So that's I think what is
And
that 7 So he's
Fourth.
probably going to be averaging like 220, 230 rushing attempts when the season's over, the way it looks like right now. So that's a lot that's going to take away his value fantasy wise because he was the top 3 in PPR last season. Right now, he's at 29. So, in order for him to obviously escalate, plus you got to think too, Big Ben, although he was fucked up, I mean, his last season pretty much washed, he still would put defenses on their heels because he could throw the long ball at any minute. Right now, I mean, with Kenny Pickett, it's kind of tough for that team to not want to just stack the box, watch the run, and let's just see if the rookie can beat us passing. I could see like many teams probably putting the pressure on him early, which makes them feel like the run game is just going to be obsolete.
Right.
I'll still put him as a running back too, because obviously Mike Tomlin, this is one of the first years we ever see him with a losing season right now. So I kind of want to still see if like Pickett can kind of, gain some steam and some momentum. It's going to be tough against that Tampa Bay team. Harris, I guess, like you said, is going to be like maybe an RB3 type deal.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to value him as an RB2 rest away. But the way his is the average amount of attempts he has this season, ain't cutting it, dude, for an RB1.
Nope. And I'll be honest, man, and I this might not make a difference, and I know it's not going to make a difference, but we all heard about Jalen Warren, and I thought nothing of him. I saw a few plays. He had a few carries against Buffalo. He's got a little bit of juice.
Mm-hmm.
Like he ran. He had like some movement to him that I didn't see from Najee Harris. To be honest with you, now I'm not saying look, I'm not that guy that's like Jalen Warren's going to take over, but for what it's worth, I saw a little more juice with Jalen Warren than I saw with Najee Harris. But I still like the upside of Najee Harris because let's be honest, Najee Harris is built like a freaking truck. But like you said,
he's good all around for that in the passing game. Probably has better vision too. So it's like that. Jalen Warren's like, a poor man's, I guess you could say, Tony Pollard in a way, like the way that Zeke and Pollard are over there. But I mean, it's not that Najee's washed or anything like Zeke is almost, but it's just the fact that like just getting him, just getting that line situated and also like the QB play. But I just think it's going to be a tough season for Pittsburgh. Next season is probably when you'll see Harris back at it again.
Well, and I'll say this to go back to I could see where you say RB2, but I'll go back to what I said. I have him as a flex. I will also say that Tampa is one of the better run defenses. So that's another. So for this week alone, I would probably do flex 2 because Tampa can stop the run. I mean, KC kind of did a number on them running the football, but they were really the only team that really ran the ball sound on them. Like, I think Tyler Algier, he had like under 4 yards a carry, whereas the week before he was like 8 yards a pop. So, the Tampa defense can stop the run. So that's another reason why I might go flex. But that being said, to play in the year, what you say, it is a matter of time before Najee Harris has that big game. Like it's coming. I just don't think it's this week, but I think it is coming.
Yeah.
Because Kenny Pickett made some good throws against Buffalo. It may not look like it, 3 points. Someone said, well, he scored 3 points. Kenny Pickett actually made a few good throws. One where he got pressured by Vaughn Miller and he stayed in the pocket and delivered a great throw to, I think it was the Freiermuth or Gentry. So Kenny Pickett made some good throws.
He had to throw a lot, man. 52 times. So quite a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
That sucks. No touchdowns or anything, but he threw over 300 yards. I mean, he's capable of chucking the ball. It's just getting everything all together,
Exactly. So I guess I'll keep going with mine if that's cool.
You know what? Let's switch off.
Go
Play it off like that. So we got Najee on the books. I kind of do see what you say with that. I see him as a flex maybe this week, but RB2 rested away. And
Yeah.
what better way to start RBs on my end than Devin Singletary? So,
Yeah. All right.
Well, so I want to ask you this. You saw a little bit, you've probably obviously watched the game more than I do. So, James Cook, how did he look in that
game? He had that one explosive run where he scored a touchdown, and then he had another 7-yard run. But the other 2 carries, I believe, went for, I think, no yards. So, I mean, he looked good once he got in the open field. But we also got to remember it was 31-3 when he scored a touchdown, and it was in the fourth quarter. So let's kind of slow the brakes on that. Now, he was the first Buffalo Bill to rush for a touchdown this season, but let's kind of pump the brakes. I mean, once he got in open field, I mean, he was gone. Like he made a cut move on Mika Fitzpatrick, and Mika couldn't do anything with it. But again, they were up by 28 points. He actually got a. I mean, he was untouched. Pretty much until actually Mika grabbed at his ankles, but he pretty much was untouched within the first 15 yards. So you're not going to get holes like that all the time. So you got to do something when there's not a big gaping hole like that. So
yeah,
it was great. It was great to see. It was awesome to see. But I got to see more. I got to see more than just one big explosive carry.
I mean, surprisingly, this past week, like Devin Singletary only had 6 rushing attempts. I mean, especially with the lead that they had.
Yep.
But so, what say you for the rest of the season?
I mean, at best, I have him as a flex. I think you're gonna see. I think you're gonna try to see. You're gonna see more running back by committee if they're successful like they were last week. Now, they've been kind of on and off. Like I think they were very successful with the first game against the Rams, but then they went 3 games where they didn't really run the football that well. But I think they're going to try to do running back by committee. But then again, I mean, they only ran it between the running backs. They only ran it 11 times. Like Cook had 4, Zach Moss had 1, and Devin Singletary had 6. But I mean, Zach Moss at 1 carry had 7 yards and could have gone for more had he not tripped over himself. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to try to do running back by committee. I really do, and especially this week because every time they've played KC, they've done a running back by committee, whether it be Singletary and Moss last year, or Singletary and Moss last year. So I see him as a flex at the best, but I could see where someone would want to bench him because he is 33rd and standard and 25th in PBR. So again, I see him best as a flex, but I could also see someone wanting to bench him.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, Buffalo right now is number 1 overall in passing in the whole league, and that's something that I mean, obviously this has been a thing for the past 2 to 3 years. Is that Josh Allen is capable of rushing the ball as well, so he definitely takes that away from the running backs. It is a running back by committee, if even with the small amount of rushing they get in general. But I do like the fact that Buffalo airs it out. But when it comes to the rushing attack, you kind of want to steer away from it, like when drafting and whatnot. I think we were kind of wondering if James Cook could start being the guy to look towards. Maybe that could be further down the road. But right now, Singletary is definitely to me, like somebody I want to sit. Flex worthy, possible, but you're looking at him being what is he? He's number 25 at running back right now, which is just outside of running back 2. So that's definitely flex appeal, but also too, I mean, it depends on the matchup, I would say too. Like with Kansas City, what do you see with that one? You flex or drop or sit.
I was I was just gonna say. So I was just gonna speak on that. So the thing is that there's some positive about it. Sorry, Josh, but the Chiefs did get up about 140, about 140 plus, if I'm not mistaken, to Josh Jacobs. That being said, Devin Singletary and Josh Jacobs, as we all know, are two different backs. They're two different type of backs. Josh Jacobs is, more north and south, whereas Devin Singletary is more of a shifty back. And to be honest with you, Devin Singletary really hasn't run that well. They've played these guys the last 3 years. He hasn't really ran that well against Kansas City. So that's a concern, but there is a guiding light or whatever that the Raiders, ran really well against them. So um I might bench them, honestly. Especially if they're gonna try to go I might bench them this week, even though there was a lot of positives from last week with the Raiders. I think they're going to try to do the running back a bit by committee. I think they're going to try to get all three involved and somehow, especially when you have James Cook was drafted second round. Buffalo values their draft picks. Unless they absolutely suck, Buffalo values their draft picks. So at some point, James Cook, they're going to try to get him to be the guy. I just let's pump the brakes right now. But I think they're going to long-winded answer. They're going to try to do running back by committee, especially if all three guys or two of them are running the football as well as they did last week.
Yeah, very true. So I kind of do value the same. I think he's definitely someone worth benching so far.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have next?
I got James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't know, man. I know he had what 16 or 18 touchdowns last year with the Cardinals, but I don't know. I just feel like this James Conner version of the Cardinals, I was more impressed with him as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I didn't realize I didn't realize he was like 6'1", 229. And yes, he does provide somewhat of a pass catching ability, but I just felt like there was more explosive plays with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe that's just me. And not only that, um, it just seems like him and the offensive line are now on the same page. He's averaging like 3.7 yards per carry. Um, you alluded to Najee Harris only having 69 carries in 5 games. James Conner only has 54 carries in 5 games, and Emo Benjamin has 30. And quite frankly, I think Emo Benjamin's kind of looks better than James Conner.
You look pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and James Conner, who, as far as I know, he played all 5 games. He's 34th in standard and he's 31st in PBR. So again, kind of like, almost, less than Devin Singletary. So now we're looking at, you know, flex. We're looking at him as a flex. And to be honest with you, and I have him in Lucha, which is a 12-team league, which we based off of. The only reason why I'm starting them this week or would is because I got a bunch of injuries. Otherwise, I might bench him, honestly. Now, they are playing against Seattle, and Seattle's defense hasn't been that great. So maybe for this week only, I might put him as a flex, but I would not. I wouldn't blame anybody if they bench him, especially if you got two or three other good backs. Like if you got Josh Jacobs, or if you got like Dalvin Cook or um McCaffrey or Barkley or any of those guys, like I would easily start those guys over James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
But at best, he's a flex in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty good year last year with the Cardinals. He definitely did at least start 15 games last season. This season, it's kind
Yeah.
of tough. I mean, I know he's a little bit day to day this week. I think he's questionable this week. There's a chance he might not play. But I
Yep.
know going forward, I kind of value him as like I valued him beginning of the season as an RB1, like just on the
Yeah.
outside. That was the beginning of season. But as the
Sure.
season has progressed, maybe we could see something different. This whole Cardinals offense has been kind of, you know, like light, like 2.0 light. So like it's just not it's not as successful as last season. So I think too, I like the Benjamin take. He's looked pretty good. Darrell Williams is also somewhat questionable. And I'm kind of on the same boat with you, dude. I kind of value him as maybe a running back two, rest of the way, but it's likely not. I think he's not going to play this week. It seems like he's going to be doubtful. But
Okay.
rest of the way, I probably would put him as an RB2. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's
I don't
just
know. Yeah.
his fantasy output is not there. Like his snap percentage is not there. Like somebody you would like to see as an actual RB1. So I mean, he's
Right.
definitely taking a seat back. It's looking more like an RB2 type deal. Like I definitely
Yeah.
like Brees Hall over him. I like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd even probably put James Robinson over him. I'm being honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Jeff Wilson. I put Jeff Wilson over him.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. I don't think who else. Someone random. Um, yeah, I don't know.
How about him or
But
Ramondre Stevenson?
I'll go Ramondre actually because now it seems like Harris might not miss any games, but Ramondre went off last week,
Yeah.
so I'll go Ramondre.
Yeah, he has his games, dude. I mean, I mean, we could just shift over to Ramondre real quick. Like, I think he's definitely valued as an RB2 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like that, especially with Harris. Questionable as it is right now. He was limited this Wednesday, but if Harris is not good to go, it's wheels are up, straight up
Yep,
for
straight
Ramondre
up.
for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Because
since you had
I was just gonna say because the Browns just played the Chargers, and Austin Eckler had a hell of a game. He had probably his best game of the season.
mhm,
So that looks good for Ramondre.
nice. All right, let me swing it on over to you. Let's
Yep.
go with since okay, let's go with Kenneth Walker.
Mm-hmm. I'm on
So
board.
yeah,
I'm on board.
we did see Rashad Penny go down this past week. Um,
Sorry.
sucks because it was kind of good to see Penny kind of bouncing back. Already a pretty decent season as it is.
Yep.
So far, DJ Dallas might be the backup, and I think what's his name?
Travis Homer.
Yep, I think he's coming back from IR soon as well.
He is.
So
Yep.
this backfield is kind of dismal. So I mean, there's definitely a big chance for Kenneth Walker to take the helm and maybe take it all throughout the season. He could be a league winner in wins. So with that, with further ado, do you see him as an RB1, RB2, flex play?
Well, let me just say I'm on board,
Mhm.
and I'm on board because in FLOOG I spent $31, and yet the Gardner brothers outbid me. Imagine that. Shane outbid me with 59 and Brad with 51. So
What,
just that
dude? You didn't
again,
put that Josh Allen type money down, like
it would
from the
have been
draft?
52. Yeah, it
Uh,
would have been 52. Shane put in $59. I still wouldn't have
well,
got him.
yeah. So yeah, Josh Allen to you is Kenneth Walker to Shane. Totally get it now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Best way to
So,
put it.
exactly. Um, so I'm on board, like Shane. I'm on board. I think he's gonna pick up right, like you said. I think he's gonna pick up right where Rashad Penny was starting to go. Um, for all intents and purposes, although I'm on board, I think I'll still go flex because although he had a really good game last game, and he's had a few like I think the first game they played was kind of underwhelming, but the last three have gotten better each game. I still want to see it. I still want to keep seeing more of it. Um, so I'm gonna go flex, but I think there's a possibility by the end of the season he could be at the very least an RB2.
I like it.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
thought
totally like that. I mean, beginning of season, with him and Brees Hall as the two top rookies, I think we all just
yep,
valued Brees Hall quite a bit more. But we do like the fact that like when Kenneth Walker came in, we're like, he's got it, man, he's got it. And then obviously, Chris Carson pretty much out with that whole big neck injury, and then Rashad
yeah,
Penny, who did great. I mean, this
yeah,
whole Seattle team has kind of surprised us all, especially with Geno Smith starting at
yep.
QB. So I mean, it's basically just seeing Rashad Penny taking the helm, and then actually Kenneth Walker is pretty interesting, man. I'm probably going to put him as an RB2. I'd be pretty happy. I'd be pretty happy with that. It might be a back end RB2, like a low
Yeah.
end, but
Okay.
like looking right now as for the whole season right now, you got Gibson, number 22, Damian Harris, 23. Rashad
Mm,
Penny was the 24th best running back right now this season,
okay. I was gonna ask that.
fantasy
Okay.
wise. So I mean, I think
Okay.
he can at least mask that. He can definitely put that potential into there, and I think he can at least be mid-range RB2 by the end of the season. But could
I
definitely
love it.
do without a doubt if this Seattle team finds their identity. They could pretty much he could pretty much do like what Chris Carson has done for us in previous seasons.
I love it. I didn't know what Rashad Penny was. I love it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that basically just furthers my point too. Yeah, I love it. At least a running back too by the end of the season.
Oh yeah. All right. Who else you
And not
got?
only that, they're playing. And not only that, I mean, shit, they're playing the Cardinals this weekend. You
Hmm.
better start them. You better start them as a flex or a running back. Because who did they just? They lost to the Eagles. Oh, I mean, their defense as a whole has just struggled.
Yeah, especially
So,
against the running
uh,
game. If you got a decent running game,
so yeah, this is a good week to start Kenneth Walker.
sweet. All right, who you got for that other running back?
My other running back is a guy that a lot of people we know was in love with this guy, and that is one Cam Akers.
Hmm.
I'm gonna let you go because I have a strong opinion, and I'll let you go.
Well, I mean, right now he's ranked number 59 at running back. And we do see Darrell Henderson, who is still, he put up better fantasy numbers so far this season. I
Yeah,
think Los Angeles is definitely taking a step back. I mean, even Allen Robinson isn't doing good. Matthew Stafford is not putting up the amount of numbers he used to. The only one pretty much uh, getting the bulk of all this fantasy output for this offense is definitely Cooper Cup. Um,
yeah,
I guess I mean you can put Tyler Higbee in there too. He's pretty much been a
right.
decent like tight end uh, to roster. But all in all, this whole offensive or offense for the LA Rams is just kind of like static. Like it's not like anything that we're used to. Where there's no
Mm,
juice. There's nothing. There's no smoke and mirrors like the way that Sean McVay would do in the past. Like it's just has everybody caught on to Matt Stafford and what he does. So
mm, mm.
I'm interested to see what you have to say. But I mean, there's a good chance. I mean, I might cut Cam Akers. I still think I knew this is why I did not really draft him in any leagues. So I still remember when they brought him back too early last season in the Super Bowl and in the playoffs, he was not looking good whatsoever. So I steered away. Obviously, I want everybody to bounce back from injury, man, but it's hard to say when somebody comes back from that. They're just still not doing anything.
I don't know how to top that.
Sometimes you lose a step.
Yeah,
Not everybody's Adrian Peterson when they come back from an injury like that.
no, no, no. I I don't know I don't even know where to add to that. I mean, you basically said everything I wanted to say. The only reason why I might not cut him is because I know. The only reason why I want to cut him is because I know somebody would try to get him, and he's a starting running back. But I'm with you, Gary.
Yeah.
If I didn't have that fear, if I didn't have that fear of like someone's going to get him, I would cut him. I'm totally with you. I felt the same way about him as the playoffs last year and the Super Bowl. And this year he's only had one decent game, and he still only had 61 yards, and that was against the Cardinals. But like last week, he had like 13 carries for 33 yards. I know it was against Dallas, but other than that one game against the Cardinals, he's just been underwhelming. And like you said, he's been underwhelming since the playoffs. He came back way too early. And Daryl Henderson, he's been a little better, but not been that much better. So I would say either one I would not start. And if I could, I would probably drop. Well, with Daryl Henderson, I would want to drop him, but again, who knows if they might turn to him if this keeps going. So I mean, like I said, for different reasons, I don't want to drop him because like I said, I feel like someone would pick up Can Akers, and then with Daryl Henderson, I feel like someone or the Rams could turn to him as their lead back. But otherwise, if I could, I would probably drop him, just like you said. I've been seeing like Christian McCaffrey attached to them. Like they ought to trade for somebody. It's not
Yeah.
going to be Saquon. Everybody keeps bringing up Saquon as a trade possibility. Why would my question to you? And maybe this is just a random question, or you can answer it. Why the heck would the Giants trade Saquon Barkley when you're 4-1? That makes no sense to me. And then their backup running back is Matt Breida. I mean, come on. So I think Christian McCaffrey might be the best choice, but I think they gotta do something at running back. I get that. I get Akers as former second round pick. I get Anderson's at a former third round pick. But like you said, sometimes you just don't have it.
Right. And that kind of puts me at a spot where I just made a roster move because I wanted to do this earlier today, like after waivers went through. But
Yeah. See.
Malcolm Brown's with the team, and he
Right.
used to be with them, and he wasn't like great fantasy wise, but he put up enough for like a decent flex play.
Yeah.
So he was one
Um,
guy. I mean, he still knows the offense. I mean, he's been gone for at least a good year or two.
mhm.
But I mean, if both Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson can't pick it up, they could definitely have Malcolm Brown pick up the slack. I mean, that's just hearsay, like the whole Tevin Coleman going back to San Fran and putting up fantasy numbers, and then he'll be gone like within the
Right.
next few days or next week or two anyway. But
Right.
it's just that Cam Akers has kind of lost a step. Darrell Henderson, I mean, he's still got the juice there. But like I
Yeah.
said, I just think this whole team in general is just taking a huge step back. It's like that whole
I
what is it called? When you're set back from the Super Bowl hangover kind of deal.
oh Super Bowl hangover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
hmm
You,
That's my
I
way
totally
on that.
agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. All right, let's well, this is another guy too who's kind of taking a step back, and I want to see what you think. Um, let's go with Chase Edmonds. So basically, we've seen Raheem Mostert kind of take the forefront of this backfield a little bit. Chase Edmonds did not do much at all. This whole offense in general is kind of missing ever since Tua went down. I mean, I don't know if you have Tyreek Hill or even it was Jalen Waddle, any shares of those guys, but those two guys
I
have
do.
taken a step back too. I think
Yeah, I
everybody's
do have.
kind of hurting without Tua in there. But
Yeah.
lo and behold, with that, Edmonds has only gotten less than one fantasy point last week with only one rush. So I want to bring it to you
Wow.
and see what you think.
Yeah. I have him on the bench. Um, and unless I have a bunch of injuries, I don't plan on starting him as an RB1. I don't plan on starting him as an RB2. And I plan on starting him as a flex. And in a couple of our leagues, we have two flex players. I won't even do that for either flex. If I could, I would not only am I benching him, and I couldn't even tell you the last time I played him. I think it was week 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
I would drop him again if I didn't think someone would pick him up because in those 12 team and 14 team leagues, you and I both know that you do have to have a backup running back just in case. Um, if you have like an AJ Dillon or I love Dontrell Hillard from the Titans, I think he's a great player. I think he's actually a really good player. He just plays behind Derrick Henry, or like a Samaj P. Ryan, who's been playing pretty good for the Bengals. But long story short, Chase Edmonds, in my opinion, he's what 40th in PBR. So that's like borderline flex. I wouldn't even put him as a flex. I'd leave him on the bench, and if there's another backup running back that's better than him available, then I would pick that guy up. Like if somehow like Dontrell Hilliard or I'd even say like a Rex Burkhead, I know that's really stretching it. I mean, that's really stretching it. Um, if one of those guys is available, or obviously Kareem Hunt's probably not available, but Kareem Hunt, I would drop Chase Edmonds for one of those guys.
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
think
man.
I think eventually, if this keeps going the way it is, Chase Edmonds might be droppable
Yeah.
because I think Miles Gaskins. I think I'd have to look at it, but I know Miles Gaskins got more touches than he did last week, and I hadn't heard Miles Gaskins' name at all this regular season.
No, it's surprising, man, with this new regime too. How much like
Yep,
some guys have just been taking a back seat all throughout.
yep, yep.
But most are it did pick up an injury, so I mean, there's a good chance that maybe we could see something out of Edmonds, or maybe even see the likes of Gaskins pick up
Hmm.
too. But it all depends on Mostert's injury so far.
Right.
Uh, but
So yeah, bench all the way.
bench, I'm probably gonna drop. Or you know what? I would give it this week. See what he does with that likes of Mostert, and then pretty much go from there.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's kick it on over to the wide receivers, dude. Uh, who'd you have to start with that?
So I got an interesting one. I got Jacoby Myers.
All right.
Um, and a lot of people, so he's only played 3 games, so therefore his PBR is only 39th. But this guy has 27 targets through 3 games. He's got 20 catches for 261 yards. And I think he's in the top 5 in yards per game. But yet people would probably only value this is according to this, he's only valued borderline flex. But I'm telling you, this guy to me is starting to become maybe flex or maybe even a wide receiver too if he keeps it up. I mean, and look who he's playing with. He's playing with Mac Jones, who's injured, and now he's playing with a rookie Bailey Zapp. and he still hasn't. I mean, he had 111 yards last week. I get it was with the Lions, but I think his lowest catches was 4, and he had 9 catches last week. I don't know. I have him in one of my leagues, and I mean, this might sound crazy, but I have in that league I have Mike Evans and I have Mike Williams, and like Mike Williams is now questionable. Um, dare I say, I almost value Mike or Jacoby Myers over Mike Williams. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but he keeps putting up the numbers that he is, and so you got 6 targets, 13 targets, and then he had 8 targets last week. I said 9 catches, but he had 8 targets last week for 7 catches.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much had 1/3 of the target share because I think Zappy only threw about 21 times. So
Yep,
um,
and
that's
in three
well over,
games,
yeah, it's well over 1/3 of the target share right there.
and
So
in 3 games, he's gone from 8.2 to 14 to 20.6.
mhm,
So, and I mean, who else is really gonna contend with him for target share? Like you just said,
right,
because Hunter Henry's been underwhelming. John Smith's been underwhelming. Um, and then
Devontae
Devontae
Parker.
Parker, Nelson.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
And it
Devontae
looked
Parker's had one. Go ahead.
so yeah, Devontae Parker too. He only had his fantasy output from the games that Myers was gone. So they value Myers for sure. Devontae Parker,
Exactly.
between Devontae Parker and maybe Tyquan Thornton and Nelson Aguilar. I mean, it's hard to say with these wide receivers, but I do like the fact that Jacoby Myers looks like the guy for sure. And it's only
Yeah,
going to be after him, it's going to be a mix of Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton, and Devontae Parker. It's like this team can
yeah,
never like legitimately have one single running back and one or two wide receivers to choose from. So it's always a committee. But I do like the fact that Jacoby Myers is getting a a shit ton of targets compared to everybody else, and B, he's playing 80 to 90% of the snaps. So
right.
that's great to see. I probably will value him as if I had him as a wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 2 would be too iffy, but I do love the fantasy output he's had these past few
Yeah,
games. I feel confident in him being a great wide receiver 3,
yeah,
possibly able to put up those wide receiver 2 numbers for sure. But
yep.
yeah, I like the pick, dude. This is an interesting one. I'm probably not even flex play, man. Give him at least my wide receiver 3. Because I know when we
Yeah.
talk flex for wide receivers, we're gonna probably put him in the wide receiver 4 range type deal. But
Right.
yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna stick with him being a good wide receiver 3 for me. I like it.
And I'll just say one more thing, and we can move on. But last year he was 30th in PBR, and he only had 866 yards, which comes out to like 53 or 52 yards per catch.
Hmm.
He's averaging 87 so far. Uh, and not only that, he only had 2 touchdowns last
Really?
year. Now he's already gotten one. So yeah. So um, I see him. Like I said, it's borderline flex, but that's because he missed 2 games. I think at the end of the year he could be a wide receiver too. I know that's crazy. That's crazy, but again, this is a guy that was a wide receiver 30 last year
Hmm.
and already putting up numbers already better than last year. So
I
that's
like
all I
it,
got
dude.
for that.
Yeah, like honestly, I kind of like the fact that Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones, whether it's either or, are pretty much going to be targeting him nonstop. So that's
Yeah,
definitely safe fantasy output there. So like
yeah,
I want my wide
absolutely.
receiver 3 to be at least somewhat like safe. If he could be consistent in the you know double digits, it could be like 10 points, 11, 12 points. But as long as my wide receiver 3 puts up something like that, I'm pretty happy on a consistent basis. I'm happy. Because like those wide receiver ones that we love, I mean, I can go with like 6 points here, but if they're putting up 30 to 25 to 30 points in most games, I'm cool with that. Like our Devontae Adams, like our Stephon Diggs. They might just have 1 or 2 games, 3 games, and just can't do jack shit. But I mean, those other
Yeah,
games is what they helps you win games. Um,
and and not only that, I mean, this was a guy that had 126 targets and 17. That's
mhm.
seven. That's not even 7.5. Now he's averaging 9 targets. So because he missed 2 games, he's on pace for 135. But he played all 17. We're
Mhm.
talking 150 targets for this guy.
Yeah.
So
Well, I love you bringing up somebody in the AFC East other than your Buffalo Bills. So that's perfect, dude. Good job on you. We don't ever see that too much.
thanks.
You know what? Let's stick to it.
No,
Let's go
no.
another AFC East. Let's stick AFC East. Let's go with Elijah Moore. So there was huge expectations for him going into this season.
Yep.
Especially with the way I mean, the games that he played last season, he was pretty much on fire for a decent part of it. I was looking
Yeah.
to see, especially like midway through the season. I know he's been injured somewhat last season, but now he's kind of
Mhm.
taken a huge backseat. I mean, I know the team's got Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Braxton Berrios makes some kind of appearances. Brees Hall and Michael Carter can somewhat take away some of the passing downs.
Tyler Conklin.
Tyler Conklin, you know, Tyler Conklin's been a big factor for this Jets offense right now this season.
Yep.
Um, I know Garrett Wilson has come on. We liked Joe Flacco in the backfield. He was getting to, I don't know. It's one of those things like, I mean, he could be a stick figure in the backfield, but he's going to chuck the ball. Zach Wilson is one who can probably find his 1-2 read and then run after that. So it's kind of hard to rely on these wide receivers sometimes the way that we would hope. So I want to swing it on over to you. How do you value Elijah Moore right now?
Well, he's 65th in in PBR. Um, yeah, I value right now. Um, I value Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson like way better, way more than them. When both, I mean both the shit. I value both of them more than I do Elijah Moore. I'm on board with like what you just said. He's been just overwhelmed or underwhelming. I mean, barely half his targets have been completed. Um, I would, I I keep him on my team, but I'm probably benching him. Um, and especially this week they got Green Bay with Jair Alexander. Um, I'm benching him, and for the foreseeable future, I'm probably keeping him on the bench as long as I got 3 or 4 receivers better than him. Um, I'm probably benching him until he has that breakout or 2 breakout games. Um, I'm leaving him on the bench, in my opinion.
It's kind of tough to see like your wide receiver that we have expectations of being the third best wide receiver on the New York Jets. A team that doesn't
Yeah,
produce usually the best offense.
yeah.
Um, I'm wondering too. Like, I mean, does this team have a good game plan for their wide receivers? Like, I mean, do they have a set game plan for Elijah Moore? I know he's got pretty good. He's got a hell of a lot of talent. Is this something that maybe he's taking a backseat because of his injury last season? This is what I was telling you about earlier. This is why I like having game day, because
Mm-hmm.
if it's like a wide receiver I'm interested in, or hey, maybe I want to trade for him. Does he look bad? Is he really that bad? Or is it just something that's just missing? Like, is he off? Like, this is something I would like to see, like, just sit there and just watch him throughout the game and just see, like, how is his routes going? Is he getting separation? Is there a reason why he's not getting targeted? Stuff like that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I agree.
but Elijah Moore, the talent I like. Elijah Moore, the fantasy output this season, obviously I don't have any shares of him, but I'm very interested in seeing like, you know, how he's going to be rest of season. But like you said, I probably would just value him on the bench. It's
Yeah.
to that point too. Um, their bye is week 10, and they have to go against Green Bay, Denver, New
Ooh.
England, and Buffalo. That's a huge stretch.
Mm,
Um,
yes.
I don't know if I can make it to the bye to see if I want to drop him or not.
Right.
It's almost on
Yeah.
the cusp of that.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, all four defenses had that game where they look, you know, just like a
Oh,
bunch of
lights
dogs.
out. Yeah.
So yeah, lights out. Yeah, lights out. So, and really, I mean, all three or all four, at least three of them. I'm not sure about New England's secondary, but obviously they did some on Jared Goff. But Green Bay secondary, Denver secondary, they're about to get Justin Simmons back. He's a beast. And then Buffalo secondary, all three secondaries are easily, I would say, in the top 10, maybe. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's a tough 4 game schedule to play against before the bye.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm keeping Elijah Moore on the bench for the time being.
Yeah. Okay. So who you got next?
So I'm gonna go Robert Woods, and I kind of did this more so because he's a so-called number one wide receiver, but yet now it should be interesting to see what happens because if I'm not mistaken, Traylon Burks went on the IR
Yeah.
as of I I believe that was Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So
Mhm.
now I'm interested to see what kind of damage he does because he is 54th in PBR. So again, that's like that's between wide receiver 4 and wide receiver 5. So I guess I'm curious. I'm curious where you value him.
I mean, I've always liked Robert Woods, the player. Like, I mean, he would always give you
Oh yeah,
like those wide receiver 2, wide receiver numbers. You don't have to have him as your like legitimate wide receiver 1, but like somebody you kind of value. Um, he's up there in age, but we do see, Nick Westbrook Akinen. So he's pretty much getting a little bit more playing time now that Traylon Burks is on IR. Robert Woods, he's also one of those that you can use, as jet sweeps and stuff like that. I mean, I know the Rams usually used him sometimes well with that, but now they pretty much use Cooper Cup with that.
yeah.
I try it. Let me see here. He's obviously the number one right now. He's getting the snaps. He's getting targeted now more so than ever. Um, I think maybe also too with the fact that AJ Brown's been gone, that they kind of try to see if like Traylon Burks can fill the void. But I like Robert Woods. I'm probably gonna see him as, I don't know if I can put him as a wide receiver 3 right now. I might have to go with a flex play. I won't drop him. I won't obviously, I will not put him as a. I won't bench him just yet. I'm still like, I mean, if he's the number one guy on a team, I'm gonna probably, start him as long as I got him. But I think he's a good flex play as of right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think at best, because yeah, like you said, it's tough because he's the number one wide receiver on a team. You're crazy if you drop him, but you don't want to start him as your wide receiver 1 or 2 or like you said even 3. So
Mhm.
like in our Lucha League, we got 3 wide receivers and then we got 2 flexes. I'm probably going with maybe one of those flexes at the most, but it should be interesting to see what he does. I know they're a run first team, but it should be interesting to see what they do um, now with Traylon on the IR. And Nick Westbrook, Inicky. I just don't see him as a serious player. His number one wide receiver, and then I think they got like Kyle Phillips, but I think he's got the clear cut to be the number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
Maybe even after Traylon Burke comes back, I still see him as the number one receiver. But for fantasy football purposes, I'm with you. I probably put him as my flex. At the very best, he's my flex, but I might bench him too, though.
Yeah. Plus, you're seeing Ryan Tannehill. He's pretty much averaging 25 passes per game. So you're probably going to see, Robert Woods at best anywhere between 5 to 8 targets a game. Like you said, they're a run-heavy offense. So I mean, that's why I kind of value him as that flex, outside of wide receiver 3 flex play kind of deal. Just because he can get some targets, but it depends, how much he can present himself with each target.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of just pretty much just bench or mostly flex play.
Yep, I agree.
Cool. Let's go with. I'm gonna go with DJ Moore. We have this whole controversy. Matt Rule's been fired. The defensive coordinator's been fired. Baker Mayfield, kind of just abysmal. We could see like the fact that this team isn't as structured, I guess you could say, as the Browns were. The Browns have a pretty good running game. They have an identity there. Like he was pretty good on like bootlegs, and then what is this? Like play action plays too. That was Baker's like bread and butter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's, and I mean the wide receivers back then were pretty damn good with them too. I mean, there was some controversy because it's fucking, the way he is inside the locker room, but he had a pretty well-established team, and now with Carolina, it's like going backwards. And to have somebody with the stature of like Baker Mayfield and his presence, like he's not the type of leader you need for a team that's kind of taking a back seat. So with that going on, you do see PJ Walker, who could possibly be the QB this week for the team. Also, Sam Darnold's in the back end of this. Like, how's that all going to play out? So I'm going to sling it to you. DJ Moore, I like him. The fantasy output is not at best because I usually value him and his talent as a wide receiver 1. But we're seeing wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type of output.
Yeah. I love the talent, and as our commish loves him, and I get it. But right now with the quarterbacks they got, and you also got to remember Christian McCaffrey is a big part of the passing game. I right now I value him as a wide receiver 3 at the best. I mean definitely flex. Wide receiver 4 flex. I mean definitely for sure he's your flex, but at best I see him as a wide receiver 3, and that's not a knock on his talent because the talent is obviously there, but between this revolving door of quarterbacks and then like you said, revolving door of coaches. And then you still got that Christian McCaffrey factor. His value, I think, has gone down this season, and it's a shame. Now, I did see somewhere where he's a possible trade target, and I saw Green Bay being a possible destination. Now, I think that would be great. You get to play with Aaron Rodgers. But that being said, normally teams don't trade within their conference, let alone their division, which they're not in the same division, but teams don't trade within their division unless you just don't have any use for the guy and you don't see any talent. And they don't really trade within the conference. But I mean, there's
division obviously number 1. Like you're sure as hell I'm not going to trade in your division. Conference, it could be difficult because I mean there's a good chance you guys are going to play at some point.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, AFC, there could be a certain amount of teams that could eye him up. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you kind of value him as wide receiver 3-ish.
I would say, yeah, I'll go wide receiver. I'm gonna say wide receiver three, and I'm doing it based off the talent because I'm like Josh. I'm like Commish. I'm like you. I love the talent, but the quarterbacks just they just suck.
Yeah.
I mean, and selfishly, I hope Sam Darnold plays next week, so I have a quarterback in Chupa. Otherwise, I'll be quarterbackless or be making a trade with you possibly. But
Bring on the
we'll
trade,
see
bro.
how that goes.
I'll see what I can do for you.
I don't want to do it, but I don't want to. I like my team 5-0. But yeah, I view him as a wide receiver three.
I got you. Like I too like him as a wide receiver 3. It sucks because of everything we've been saying, especially the
Yep,
quarterback play. Um,
yep.
yeah, I mean, it it was so interesting because Robbie Anderson had that one game in the beginning of the season. Obviously, he fell off in a way. Just this
Yep.
team in general is just so difficult to pinpoint how they're going to be. But I'm hoping with this interim head coach, we can maybe see a glimpse. Maybe a little bit of light on the tunnel, kind of like how the Raiders were last season when they had all that after John Gruden, all that other mess was gone. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be interesting. Their first game, without Matt Rule, um,
Yeah.
without the defensive coordinator too. So this could be fucking interesting to say the
Yep.
least. So, who knows? Maybe they're gonna have like the coach, interim coach, step up and be like, whoever's got the heart wants to play solely for this team, give it their all. We'll put them in. So I mean, I want to see how PJ Walker, because I always like PJ Walker's like ability. Like he's
Hmm.
got that dual threat, but I mean, maybe there's just something missing for him to be a legit starting QB for this league. But I like your input too with DJ Moore. I like him as a wide receiver 3 right now.
I'm just thinking of trade destinations, and we can move on after this. But I'm thinking of trade destinations. I wonder what someone like Dan would think of a DJ Moore with Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay,
Duvernay. Mhm.
DJ Moore, Mark Andrews. What that would do to that offense.
Be pretty fucking sweet.
I'm trying to think, or New England, because I don't trust Devontae Parker or Nelson Aguilar. I'm seeing a lot of Odell Beckham to possibly to New England,
Indianapolis could
or even
definitely
some
use it. I
Indianapolis
mean,
could use it. Yep, that's
they,
that's a
they,
good one.
I mean, you can even go back to Tennessee when we were talking about them too. They can use it as
Yep,
well.
yep.
Yeah,
I'll
Jacksonville
even
could
say,
even use it.
yeah, you beat me to the punch.
Jacksonville, he would be pretty fucking sweet in there. Him and Trevor
Yep,
Lawrence and
yep.
Christian Kirk. Because Kirk is good,
Shinkirk.
man. I
Yep.
just think he needs like somebody that dispel him a little bit. Um,
Another team, although it's not a great fit as far as what Cleveland is, but I would say Cleveland only because it's Amari Cooper, and then there is a big playability from Donovan Peoples Jones, but I don't think I trust Donovan Peoples Jones, and I don't trust that David Bell or Schwartz.
yeah,
So
I
I
don't
think
trust them
not
yet until not until Deshaun Watson's there.
right, but DJ Moore. I mean, Cleveland would be interesting only from just the just the talent, and you'd have DJ Moore and Amari Cooper.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
shout out to Jack. So
Cool.
so yeah.
All right, so that was me with DJ Moore. Who's your last wide receiver?
Last wide receiver is Darnell Mooney,
All right.
and I'm gonna let you take over on this one.
So Darnell Mooney is interesting because I never draft him. Like beginning of this season, I never eyed him up. I was like, I'm gonna let somebody else take it. I mean, obviously he's uber talented for being a 5th round choice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously the number one in a team, yeah, in the team where they're 32 in passing attempts. So, I mean, I like him as a wide receiver three because, like I said, like he's not somebody I would have ever drafted unless he fell, into the eighth, ninth, 10th round or something like that. Some people were drafting him fairly early.
Right.
Obviously with even with Allen Robinson there last season, he was pretty much still the benefactor of everything. Darnell Mooney was pretty much a cakewalk. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, this season, how many passing attempts? So this season, Justin Fields with only 88 passing attempts. He's pretty
Okay.
much completing a little over 50% of that. Mooney, on the other hand, is getting about 5 to 6, targets a game. That's not enough for any kind of wide receiver one output. Not even enough for number two. I mean, we're just talking about Robert Woods. I mean, Robert Woods is getting more than that. So, and with a better
Yeah.
passer. Well, I wouldn't say he's a better passer. Justin Fields can be a better passer if, like, he had an offensive line. I'm sure. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna keep him as a wide receiver three. I mean, who's to say in the next 2 to 3 weeks he's gonna have to dwell back towards like a flex play? I mean, I'll still keep him rostered for sure, but I'm going into that wide receiver flex play, wide receiver three kind of flex play, and borderline between those
Mhm.
two. So yeah, I mean, I'll still give it to him because of the talent, but it's tough to say, man. This is not a team that you want to have any kind of pieces towards, except maybe the running game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought so. Going off of Darnell Mooney, I thought Justin Fields was doomed from the start. I really did. I thought they didn't do nothing to help him. I don't blame it all on Justin Fields. I thought they didn't help him at all. I thought they only got that wide receiver, Bellis Jones. I thought that was the only piece they got. Whereas you got other second year quarterbacks like, you know, Zach Wilson gets Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, and Trevor Lawrence gets Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones. Um, I feel like I'm missing somebody else, but I mean, you know, just Christian Kirk alone has made him better. Um, and then like Davis Mills got Damian Pierce, but they didn't do anything to help out Justin Fields, and so I like the talent of Darnell Mooney. He was a wide receiver two, I believe, last year, 23rd, borderline, yeah, wide receiver two. Um, to be honest with you, I don't trust him. He's only got in double digits in one game, uh, and so for that reason alone, I'm keeping him because he's the number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest with you, until I see double digits consistently, I'm probably going to keep him on the bench, assuming that I have about three or four receivers better than him. I'm probably going to keep him on the bench until I see consistently double digit points.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Just you always want to steer away from the worst offenses in the league. Even if it is one of the top guy, top wide receiver. Fortunately, the running backs, the running game is not half that bad, but all in all, yeah, you might kind of want to stay away from the passing game. Let's switch it
Yeah.
on over. Here's my last guy. I have Devonta Smith. So
Mm.
my little Eagles homer, my little plug, since I rarely ever do it. AJ Brown is usually the benefactor, is the one we would
Yeah.
always have thought. Two, going into this season, I, for one, was unsure how this passing game would be. I knew the rushing game would have been pretty decent, always got a pretty good offensive line, but Jalen Hurts has surprised a lot of people. And he's been playing like almost like an MVP type status. So, passing wise, he's been pretty stout, dude. Great passing numbers. The thing
Yeah.
is, AJ Brown gets a decent amount of targets per game. to where Devonta Smith can be somewhat spotty.
Mhm.
We're looking at Devonta Smith right now at number 22 in wide receivers for the season. So he's a borderline, wide receiver 2 or 3, but he's just in the low end wide receiver 2 range. So with that being said, how much do you value him? Do you value him as a top 2 or 3?
I value definitely him as a 3.
Mhm.
But that being said, I have him on it. I have him in the FLOOG league, and I have Kirk and him and T Higgins. And this is gonna sound crazy. I actually value him over T Higgins at the
Interesting.
moment. Maybe not as much as Christian Kirk, but normally I would say if he's my wide receiver 3, I love it. I love if he's my wide receiver 3. If he's my wide receiver 2, which right now he is, I'm okay with it, but I'm just okay with it. But as a wide receiver 3, I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm in between, but yeah, if I have him as a wide receiver 3, I love it. Wide receiver 2, I'm okay with it. I mean, there's probably better options at wide receiver 2, but I'm okay with it. Like in that league specifically, I have Josh Allen, Mark Andrews, Josh Jacobs, and Christian Kirk. So
Mhm.
he's my wide receiver 2. I'm 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 5-0. I think I'm going to lose this week, but that's for another story. Um, I'm okay. I'm okay with him right now as my wide receiver 2. As long as the other players are doing what they've been doing, I'm okay with him as my number 2.
I kind of like that tandem you
I
have
would love,
there. Devonta Smith, Christian Kirk, and T. Higgins. It's all
yeah,
pretty when they're all on their game, dude, they all produce big time. And I
right.
mean, I know I tried trading for you with what's his name? Trevor Lawrence, but like I really like Lawrence and I think he's gonna have a really good career. Like this might not be a career year. Well, obviously it'd be better than last year, but like I mean, I think next year the next step is for them to find
Yeah,
another wide receiver to complement Christian Kirk. And
yeah,
if they can build like a good tight ends, whether it's Evan Ingram or somebody else, like get that tight end spectrum good, I think, and he's got wheels too. He could put up, rushing numbers as well. So I think he's like an
absolutely.
old school. Like if he could be somewhat like,
And Andrew Luck.
yeah, yeah, straight up Andrew
Okay,
Luck, dude. Like he's
okay,
2022 Andrew Luck, dude. I think he could be the next somewhat Andrew Luck. Like he's got the same kind of build, same
uh
like
huh,
kind of he's just got it all, dude. I mean, there's a reason
yeah,
why he's drafted number 1 overall. So just give him. It might
absolutely,
not be this year, but next year, I really think Trevor Lawrence is gonna be a top 10 QB for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And he's gonna have his struggles. I mean, he's in his second year. Like,
Mm,
listen, does it suck that he only scored 6 points last week when I think I started him? Yeah, it sucks, but
mm,
he's gonna have his struggles. But he's already playing way better than he did last year. I mean, I didn't even have him, to be honest with you, among the rookie quarterbacks. I didn't even think he was the second best rookie quarterback that played last year. I thought it was Mac Jones and then David Mills, and then I might put Trevor Lawrence, but the other three kind of all played about the same.
right.
So he's definitely outperformed all of those guys so far this
Mhm.
year. Uh,
And I'll tell you what, dude.
so
Doug Peterson is a fucking locker room guy. He gets them all hyped up. I mean, he talks
yeah,
nothing about confidence and all that other shit, dude. Like he's somebody who's definitely he's gonna make the team want to play hard every single time. So
I I still think they're the best team in that division. I know they're 2-3 in third place. I still think they're the best team in that division.
yeah.
I really
Oh,
do.
absolutely. I think they're going to take that division for sure. And the defense has been
Yeah,
playing pretty well. I mean, there's been times where they haven't, but I mean, if they just start gelling, I mean, this is the time for them to do it and start taking the reins in that whole division. But
absolutely.
back to Devonta Smith. Yeah, I definitely value him as a wide receiver 3 would be great. Well, wide
Yeah,
receiver 2, I mean, I'm for it with the numbers that he puts up. It's all about the targets he gets. As long as he gets like anything around 6 to 10 targets a game, he's definitely
and
somebody. Yeah.
he, if the pass blocking is there this week and they hold up Michael Parsons, and DeMarcus Lawrence is questionable, so I don't know if they'll play, but they can hold up if the line can hold up the blocking. AJ Brown will probably be followed by Trayvon Diggs. This could be a good game for Devontae Smith.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Okay, let's swing it on by to the tight ends now. Who's you got for your first tight end?
I'm gonna go with a banger on this one. I'm gonna go Kyle Pitts. Um, interested to hear what you think about how you value, even though we all love him, he's kind of been off to a struggle so far this season. Kind of interested to see like what you think.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when it came to redraft, I never really did draft him whatsoever because of how early he was drafted, and I was just skeptical about this QB play too.
Yeah,
People drafted him as if he's going to be a tight end number 3, some even tight end 2. Uh, if Matt Ryan was still there, I would have valued him uh, at that spot, but I thought it was too early for me. That's why I kind of went running back, or maybe running back, wide receiver. But 2, he's kind of lost a few his snap share last a couple of games too. He went from 80 and
hmm
90% down to 60 in the 60s. So his
Ooh.
targets all together were just 22 targets in 4 games. I know he
Yeah,
missed that game with Tampa Bay, but yeah, he's only relishing around 4 to 5 targets a game. That's not what you want to see out of your tight end 1. I know he's pretty much relegated to 24 right now in fantasy points, but as painful as it is, if it's a redraft, you already built that capital for the where you picked him, so you have to stay in with it. I know we're talking about tight ends, so basically, I'd still value him as a tight end 1. It's
yeah,
just you gotta go through the pains, go through the motion with the way this team is. So I know they lost Cordarrelle Patterson too, which helped the running game. But sometimes when you have a good running game, it can help open the passing game as well. So that's that's where I see it right now. I'll give him still the tight end 1. I'll probably put him as a tight end 10 at the end of the season, as long as his passing game can fluctuate. Or,
yeah. I mean, I like what you're saying. That being said, if somehow for some reason I have like a Mark Andrews or a T.J. Hawkinson or a Kelsey, um, I'd even say a Gerald Everett, who I know he kind of put up a stinker this past game. But if I somehow have one of those guys, I'm probably going with those guys over Kyle Pitts, or even maybe a Dallas Goddard. Um, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you've built up this capital, and he's highly regarded because of the year he had. Um, but I still need to see more. I mean, I put him as a tight end 1, but I'm like you said, I'm biting the bullet, as I say. I'm biting the bullet with wanting to like hope I have a better option. But yeah, it's kind of a gray area. Like I said, it's like I kind of want to bench him for another tight end, but then he's that type of dude to get 150 yards, or hell, he might even be that guy to get 200 yards in one game. So um, it's tough. It's tough because, like you said, the quarterback play. Marcus Mariota, we all know, is you know he's more of a scrambler. He's more of a roll out of the pocket type of quarterback, and um, he's kind of more of the college level quarterback. Kind of not obviously not Lamar Jackson. There's only one Lamar Jackson, but his style of play is kind of like Lamar. Um, he's not going to throw for 400 yards. like Josh did. Hell, he might not even throw for 350 yards like Carson Wentz did, um, but again, this is kind of like the DJ Moore thing. Like you're putting him as a tight end one for the talent, not because of the production that he's had so far this season.
Yeah. And it's tough, man, especially like I said with the draft capital. Like you're picking them there. So I mean you want them to put up those numbers, but it's hard, man, like to for him to put up the same numbers at least by from last year, especially with different QBs. It's definitely with QBs who are kind of like more so do one or two reads and then run kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Well,
Yep.
let's put it on over to I have none other than Robert Tanyan. So
Mm-hmm.
we talked about Green Bay quite a bit this season. You know, without Devontae Adams, the offense is kind of taking a seat back. Aaron Rodgers is taking a seat back, but now we're still trying to figure out who's the benefactor of this team. Robert Tunyon, one thing that was for sure is that he is definitely a good red zone threat. And it's kind of what bolstered his fantasy output for most of the seasons. Um, yeah, so he was definitely like a red zone type tight end. Uh, Rodgers is definitely going to go to the veterans who can basically, be where they need to be, um, and he can rely on them. So some of these rookies, I know Romeo Dobbs, he's been picking it up. I like to see. I think he kind of reminds me of like a young Randall Cobb in a way. So
Oh,
I kind of like the fact that like him being was he a fourth rounder or a third round pick?
I want to say he was even like a fifth or sixth. Um,
Oh, okay.
that's that's
I know
that's
they've
a great
had
question
a
though.
seventh Samari Torre. He was a seventh round pick. Or no, he might
You
be.
were right. He was a fourth rounder.
Yeah, yeah. But like
Yeah. So you
regardless, I just think Rogers has to rely on somebody, and I
yep.
think Tunyon really needs to be that benefactor too, because Cobb is actually picking it up with Aaron Rodgers. Alan Lazard's still there too. Christian Watson,
Yep.
not so much. So they're still trying to like find their groove and see who
Yeah.
could pretty much not replace what Devontae Adams could do, but be that number one that Rodgers can pretty much rely on. So, and if none of these wide receivers cannot pick it up, I thought it would be Aaron Jones, but still, I mean, his fantasy output hasn't been too great.
No, not catching the football. Now they've run the ball well, but not catching the football.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so my personal opinion is, I think told you off air. He's definitely worth a roster spot. Obviously, I think that for my opinion, I'm probably benching him, but that also is depending on who I have in front of him. Again, this goes back to your Dawson Knoxes, who I know he's had a struggle, but I'd even value Dawson Knox still at the moment. Um, your Hayden Hurst, your Mark Andrews, your David Njoku. I can name more Evan Ingrams. As long as I have Gerald Everett's or your Kyle Pitts, or even Kittles, as long as I have one of those guys, I'm putting Tanyan on the bench. But if I have someone right now like a Hunter Henry or um, a Dalton Schultz or somebody like that that's struggling, then I'll go Tunyon. But for the most part, I'll be honest, I'm I'm gonna put him on the bench. He does need to step up. He does need to be that security blanket for um, Aaron Rodgers, and he does have a good catch percentage: 20 targets, 17 catches. But again, you're looking at 4 targets a game. It's like you said, that's not really RB. That's not. I'm sorry. That's not tight end one numbers compared to the Mark Andrews, compared to the Kelsey, um, T.J. Hawkinson a couple games ago. So um, but yeah, again, it's just I always believe in Robert Tunyon, and then he just like disappears. So me personally, I'm gonna stick him on the bench. Unless I got again, unless I have a guy that's struggling more than him, I'm gonna leave him on the bench.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where I value him. Like, so right now for the season, somebody like Mo Alley Cox is at 15, Evan Ingram 16, and then you have Robert Tunyon at 17.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna throw my other guy out there too, Irv Smith. I mean, because he's
Mhm.
ranked at number 19. So
Mhm.
Irv Smith, I was kind of really big on, but I
Yep.
kind of it's hard to see basically because I mean he's got a decent snap percentage, and he's
Mhm.
getting maybe about 5 to 6 targets a game, but that's not going to put you like what we've been talking about with the tight end one aspect. You usually want to
Yep.
see your tight end get close to 10 targets.
Mhm.
Um, but with him taking a back seat too, I kind of think he would be one of those I would bench as well. Um,
Mhm.
I was gonna ask you.
Well, and one other thing, I'm looking at his backup had 44% of the snaps,
Mhm.
and Irv had 63. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I would have him as a backup too. Again, this goes back. It's basically I treat him like Robert Tunyon. Unless I have, like I said, unless I have like a Hunter Henry or one of the Seahawks tight ends or one of the Broncos tight ends because they've been unproductive. Um, I'm gonna leave him on the bench and I'm gonna save him for uh a bye week. When my starting tight end has a bye, then I'll put him in. But or if he has a better matchup. But other than that, I'm probably leaving him on the bench as well.
Right. So you've kind of started to see the emergence of Hayden Hurst. Do you like Hayden Hurst better than both Irv Smith and Robert Tunyon?
Yes.
Okay. How about Will
Yep.
Disley since he has Noah Fant kind of somewhat? I mean,
Yeah.
Disley still out snaps him, but right now Disley is at tight end, tight end 11, and Hayden Hurst is at 12.
Well, the only thing about Disley though is they've been involved in Fant and they've been involving Kobe Parkinson. Now, Kobe
Yep.
Parkinson, I think, took a dive last game, but they've involved all three tight ends. So
Hmm.
I'll probably go Tunyon or Smith over Disley until Disley starts getting more of the snaps.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, tight end is as long if it's not one of the top five, man, that you have, like it could be a rough season for you in fantasy. Like
Yep. Yep.
tight end is where it's at half the time, and you always see the usual suspects right in the top. Typically in the top 10. I mean, obviously, like we've talked about with Kyle Pitts and whatnot, and your guy now. Who else? Yeah,
George Kittle.
George Kittle. So I mean, that's the 1-2 that is basically it's a mystery, man. Like, I mean, obviously, I'd rather have Jimmy G instead of Trey Lance behind there because he definitely gives more value to the wide receiver core.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I think still with Trent Williams out, it's gonna be messy with George Kittle getting any targets.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this is kind of like the Falcons. The Falcons are mostly a run first team. The 49ers are definitely a run first team. There ain't no question about it.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, basically the 49ers are like the Titans. They're built the same way. They're built on the run and then beating you with defense. Uh, so that's where Kittle, I mean, Kittle still puts up numbers last year, the last few years, or whatever it's been, the last 5 years. But um, it just seems like this year been more so emphasizing the run. They're still involving Debo in the run game. Um, so yeah, again, George Kittle is like Kyle Pitts. It's frustrating. Like the talent's there. You want to put him as a tight end one, and I would because of the talent. But man, deep down, again, this goes back to if I have somebody more talented or somebody that's performing better, like Andrews or Kelsey or you know, I'd even say Hurst maybe or Everett. I'm probably going to go with one of those guys over Kittle. But um, if I have like a Robert Tunyon or if I have like a Irv Smith um, or Dalton Schultz that are underperforming, I'm going to go with Kittle. So again, this back with Pitts, it depends on who else I have at tight end. But I do want to bench him, but I might not have a better tight end than those two guys. Otherwise, I want to bench them because they've been underperforming for multiple reasons: quarterback play, the fact they're both run first teams. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, definitely the one to bounce back is obviously George Kittle, man. Like, I mean, he's just an all around legit tight end, blocking, catching passes too. I mean, I like Kyle Pitts, but like he's almost like a wide receiver prototype, just put in a tight end position. But yeah, I still value him as a tight end one. Like start him up all the time. I mean, obviously the points aren't there yet, but I feel like they're gonna have a turnaround. It's just been a shaky start of the season for the 49ers in general. So I
hmm
mean, altogether, I think it's gonna be all right for George Kittle owners as well. But
yeah, I get it.
yeah. So I mean, that's it, man. We've pretty
Yep.
much gone through it all. It was an interesting podcast. Try and like give some kind of like possible aspect of where these players are going to be. I mean, I love when we talk about the wide receivers, see like how, you know, get a kind of good feel how they could probably do the rest of the season, and
hmm
rank them as whether they're going to be wide receiver one, two, or three. But yeah, that's it. Any departing words you got?
Oh man, this was good. This is wasn't sure if I'd come up with 10 names, but once once I came up with the first two, I was like, okay, I got this. So yeah, I thought it went better than I thought I was gonna do, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I could come up with 10 good names, but I think we both came up with some good names. So
Yeah, I think it was perfect, man. I mean, because we can always just stem from it too and bring up some great information. But like too, I love when we do different things instead of the same old thing every week as well. So too. So, but cool. I
I
thought you
got
were gonna say for parting words, "Go Bills," but I guess I will do it for you. So go Bills,
oh
boy, and Eagles
don't worry,
Sunday night.
don't worry about it.
But
Yeah,
for Ty, 757 Bills Mafia. For me, Gars underscore Poetica. Follow us on the Flug underscore FF and at theflug.com. Once again, good luck on your fantasy week this week in week 6. And we will see you next time.
go Bills.
There it is.